Hi, my name is Kat, and this is my Ways of Knowing graduating project interview. And today I'll be talking about an experience I had with a Japanese tourist while I was shopping downtown.
Why did you choose this example?
It made me realize how complicated it can be for people who are currently learning a certain language that is not their mother tongue.
Can you tell me the details?
Of course. So I was at the BTS station at Shitlom one day, and a young Japanese woman approached me and asked for directions in Thai. It was very unexpected because I assumed that she was a tourist and would ask for directions in a different language.
I see. So here we can already tell that you're making assumptions about her since she spoke in Thai. So what happened next?
It seemed like she was learning Thai for a while now, but she had a bit of a pronunciation problem. Anyways, she asked me whether the Siam Paragon shopping mall was far from where we were.
So what did you say to her?
Well, because she asked me in Thai, I naturally answered back in Thai. And because her Thai wasn't that strong, I tried to keep my response as simple as possible. I said "Mai Klai," which means not far in Thai. However, in Thai, the word far and near are similarly pronounced. The only difference between these two words is the tone. Klai is pronounced with shorter and higher pitched tones, while Klai sounds more stretched out and has a lower pitch.
This can be a really difficult thing to differentiate if you're not a native Thai speaker. So they do really sound individual. They really do sound similar, And I wouldn't be surprised if she got confused. So what happened next?
Your prediction was absolutely correct. She interpreted it differently from what it actually meant. And from my perspective, Mai Klai means not far. And I'm pretty sure she thought I meant no, far instead, since Mai also means no in Thai. And after telling her that, she looked a bit disappointed because she thought that it was far from Shitlom, when in actuality it was actually a couple stations away. And because of that, I think she decided not to go to Siam Paragon that day because I saw her walking back into central Shitlom.
So it sounds like her misperception created a problem. What ways of knowing could you relate this experience to?
The main ways of knowing I could connect to this situation to are language and perception. And for example, I will also use theories from each of the ways of knowing we've learned this semester to elaborate on how it could have influenced this accident.
How do you think you could solve this problem? Do you think you could have prevented that from happening in the first place?
Well, for this example, I was wondering about how I could have prevented my assumption of her capability in speaking Thai in order to avoid problems with misconception, since I was also the one at fault for deducing that she was able to understand what I said.
So a possible knowledge issue could be, to what extent do expectations distort how we perceive others?
Yeah, exactly. I made an assumption based on my empirical view of her, which was, based on her looks. And as a result, it affected my interaction with her because of our natural abilities and instincts are for making assumptions. We often use it in a form of a safeguard or intuition, which may not always be applicable depending on the situation.
Okay, so let's start talking about what language is and we'll move on to perception.
Because we use language in order to communicate, it comes so naturally to us that we are rarely consciously are aware of it. Since most of our knowledge comes to us in the form of a language, we need to be clear about the meanings of words if we want to accurately understand the information that is being communicated to us.
So how can language create problems?
This can sometimes raise problems such as vagueness and ambiguity, where different interpretations of certain words can be created.
What about perception?
Perception can be defined as the awareness of things through our five senses, and one concept is that I could logically relate to my situation would be common sense realism, since I assume that because she approached me and spoke to me in Thai, it gave me a higher certainty of her understanding the language than what I would have probably hypothesized for any other tourist.
Are there any other theories that you can relate this to?
Gladwell's theory of rapid cognition and thin slicing works pretty well with this situation, considering my first interpretations.
So what are they exactly?
Basically, what they are is how you are able to develop knowledge from a small amount of information.
So from your experience, how do those apply?
For language, as I said earlier, it can be problematic at times due to ambiguous or vague words. The young Japanese woman interpreted my words in a different way than I did because it had two different meanings. That caused her to misunderstand the true meaning, therefore prevented her to go to Siam Paragon that day.
What about for perception?
Perception is probably the ways of knowing that led to the problem because I was the first to assume that she was able to speak Thai just from my first impression of her. I didn't realize my problem until only later. The theory of thin slicing and rapid cognition can be easily applied here since it caused me to believe that she was capable of speaking Thai, when in actuality she was still not able to distinguish between certain words and tones.
How do you think you can regulate language in this situation?
First of all, language is always changing, but in this case, it acts more like a barrier between us two, since we are fluent in our own native languages. I believe the only way for this problem to be solved is that she should learn more about the different tones in Thai words in order to be able to distinguish one from another.
How do you think you can regulate language in this situation?
First of all, language is always changing, but in this case, it acts more like a barrier between us two since we are fluent in our own native languages. I believe the only way for this problem to be solved is that she should learn more about the different tones in Thai words in order to be able to distinguish one from another, since it can be really complicated.
Okay, so I think she should go learn more about attempting to use it just to avoid any risks. What about perception?
For this situation, perception was the problem that led me to have those impressions of her, and because I use quick decision making, I didn't realize my faults until later. Perception is also usually difficult to regulate because it comes naturally to us that we barely are aware of it most of the time. And I believe a way to prevent this fast decision making is to carefully evaluate different possibilities before we make a conclusion, especially for a situation like this.
So, what are some things you learned from this experience?
I learned that situations as simple as this one can be analyzed in such a complex manner. To sum it up, language and perception comes very natural to us, that it can be sometimes difficult for us to detect factors that are vulnerable to problems. And this problem could have been avoided if we were both more aware of what we were doing and not just base it off our natural instincts. This can eventually benefit us in the future when we come across similar situations so that we are more cautious and aware of what we think and how it might affect our results before showing it right away. It may help us reduce any problems and misunderstandings when interacting with others too.
Great, thanks for your time.
Thank you.